Okay, I'd like to call the July 25th, 2023 Board of Fire Commissioners meeting to order. All commissioners are present. I'd like to just, right now, maybe just, as we learned about the death of the battalion chief, let's just take a moment of silence and stand this memory. Thank you. Commissioner Medina, would you lead us in pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve tonight. The regular meeting on June 27th, special meeting on July 11th, and the special meeting on July 17th. Unless there's some objection to doing them all together, so I have a motion and a second to approve all 3.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve those 3 sets of minutes. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Medina.
Nothing for me today, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
No, I read the staff report and I was very impressed with the complexity and the professionalism. And I only have one suggestion is that we use people's titles instead of their first name when they're referencing activities that occurred during the month. And that's a sign of respect for the individual, but it also reminds people who they were 5 years from now if they looked at the roll up. So, but good job, everybody.
Commissioner Berger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a couple of items. First of all, I want to publicly say how sorry I am to have read that Olivia Sullivan, who's assistant editor of our Federal Way Mirror, is departing for greener pastures, perhaps up in Seattle. I wanted to comment that I found her coverage of the district when she was the beat reporter, perhaps still is the beat reporter, I think, to be fair and accurate and balanced on the various hard news stories that she covered for the district in the years that I've been on the board, especially the COVID-19 vaccine mandate implementation, which was extensive coverage. I also thought her human interest stories were very good. Thinking about the story she did recently on Amanda Weed and Ann Ho being mother firefighters, firefighter mothers. I'm not sure which goes first. And very interesting story. And so good luck to her. I reached out to her privately, but I thought I'd publicly acknowledge her contribution to the community. She'll be missed. And then secondly, I wanted to thank my fellow members of the board who signed up to be, and staff who signed up to be members of the South King Fire team for the Federal Way Rotary's 2nd annual speed croquet tournament fundraiser on Saturday. Thank you very much. Looking forward to it. There is going to be a competition within the competition because all 4 of the public agencies within Federal Way will have teams. And so we're going to have a special award, hopefully give the school district that won last year they won the whole thing. But there'll be a separate award just for the 4 public agencies, the winner of the 4 among the 4 public agencies. So looking forward to that.
Okay.
And last but not least, related to that, I want to thank Todd Williams and the other board members of the South King Firefighters Foundation for their sponsorship, very generous sponsorship of our event. So thank you, Todd, and the other board members, anybody who may be listening and share that with them. That's it for me.
Thank you.
is a compelling document of how much is going on and how effective the organization is doing. It's too bad the public can't take a look at it and see what really goes on and how busy things are in the department. It's really, really wonderful to see that. The interagency department stuff is sprouting out. You can see it in training and the responses. That's great to see and hear about. That's what Zone 3 is all about. And you can start to see some details for all to see about what's happening in the strategic bridge plan. And that's great. It's obvious that there's some things going on and sprouting up in these reports. Finally, a little bit off the topic, but Battalion Chief Barrett and Ryan both submitted their plans for their shift. And good to see what they're doing, and particularly BC Barrett's was quite detailed, but also contained a lot of compliments and support for the crew. That's it.
Okay. I do like the rotational reports. That's very interesting to look at. Commissioner Berger, your comment about Olivia Sullivan, yeah, she's one of the best reporters we've had in a long time. So, all right, public comments. Any public comments?
I have some public comment. Dean Baston.
Okay.
Ready for me and can hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. I apologize that I'm not there in person. I had some stuff that prevented me. But I would like to go on record to thank Commissioner Vedino and Berger for their motion attempt to hold an open, fair, competitive process for our next fire chief. To the rest of the board, I hope that you would reconsider your stance on an open, fair, competitive process for our next fire chief and choose to make a motion to hold such a process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then, maybe it for public comments. All right. Okay, Commissioner committee reports. I don't think we've got any committee reports tonight, but I'd like to take the opportunity here on the agenda to go back and ask the board regarding the process for a fire chief, as Dean just described it, as something that's open, fair, competitive. I'd like to ask the board if they would like to reconsider where we are in the process, and if they'd like to relook at the motion from last time, if there's anything further that needs to be said or done there.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Do I have to make a motion or can I make a comment?
Either one.
Motion first? Can I talk about it or?
Go ahead and make a motion first if
Okay.
you want to make a motion. Yeah.
Sounds good. I would like to motion for the district to conduct an open and competitive hiring process for internal and external candidates for the chief position.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to have an open process for the chief's position. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's important we have an open process so we can make sure we have the best possible chief. You know, internal or external will give us the opportunity to see all of our options. It's also a much more transparent process, so everybody in the community and in the district can see what we're doing and, you know, see our process for selecting the best chief we can.
I think your statement about being transparent to the community before that wasn't part of our discussion before, but I appreciate that added comment.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just comment about Mr. Patino's motion. I didn't say anything last time because she didn't elaborate, and I thought, as the seconder of the motion, I didn't want to put her in a difficult position, so I didn't say anything, but I'd like to say publicly, especially to Assistant Chief Elkenberg, that my support of the motion really has nothing to do with him personally. As everyone knows, I supported and strongly supported the motion to be the interim chief, but it is a common practice for an important position like our fire chief CEO to go to a competitive process. Dave may very well be the best person available for the position, but unless we go through that competitive process, there's really no yardstick by which to measure him. And that's the reason I supported it. Has nothing to do with him as an individual. I support him as the interim chief, looking forward to that opportunity to watch him perform as interim chief. But again, for the reasons that Commissioner Bedino stated, I think that it should be an open competitive process. The constituents deserve the best possible fire chief that the district can attract in that position, which may very well be Assistant Chief Nick Walkenberg, but it might not be. Depends on who competes, who files an application internally or externally. If there were to be majority support for the motion, I would urge that we do a national recruitment. I think this district deserves the best leadership we can find. I think this district can attract top talent in addition to Chief Walkenberg. This is an outstanding organization with a great reputation. I think the process should be open to give everyone an opportunity who is out there and is well qualified to compete. Just want that.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else? I guess it's my turn. Motion to reconsider is well voiced, and well, with the conflicts and stuff that are going on in politics and stuff, and the voice for more transparency on things and what have you, and looking back that I too support Chief Van Valkenburg for the position. However, I think he will probably come out on top of the, if we open it up to open competitive applications, and that it will give him much more credibility within the organization, within the community, and that he is the fire chief, and for the reasons that he became the fire chief, because he was the top candidate of those who applied. And he has time between now and the time that we make that selection to show us what he's got, and to really feel comfortable in the position as fire chief. And so I will reconsider my my vote from last month.
Any other comments? Okay, there's a motion and a second to have an open and competitive process for the selection of the next fire chief. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I would like to,
Question, Mr. Chairman?
sure.
Will we be having a discussion about that process at some point soon? And when might that be?
Good motion.
Do we need anything formal in that regard?
What I was gonna do was, in terms of, starting that process, I was going to direct, HR to start that process immediately to that selection process. But we can, and we can have,
Should we have the assistance, should we consider having the assistance of a search firm?
I would think,
A discussion
Yeah.
about that at some point.
I would think we would probably have to, you know, if we want to go national. But again, that's maybe something HR can advise us on and so forth, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on, administrative team report.
I believe that you have a pretty comprehensive packet in front of you. And certainly, as always, if there's any questions of any particular individual or division, by all means ask. I guess I'll start by saying that last week, myself and several others went back to the Spartan factory to do the final inspection on the heavy rescue. We have a very nice piece of apparatus that was gone over literally inch by many people. And I give full credit to those that did that, members of fleet. We had some folks from the rescue team, Chief Smith and myself, Mitch Lee. It was a interesting visit. The rig is very nice. It needs a few items, small punch list that was developed, but it's going to be quite an addition when it gets here, for sure. So I look forward to its arrival, and I can't give you a date exactly because I don't know how long it'll take for them to do what they need to do at the factory.
Where will it be located?
Beg pardon?
Where will it be located?
I think that too needs to be worked out, but I think tentatively it's going to live at 64s. There's still some details to be kind of dealt with on all of that, but it'll be a nice rig when it gets here.
Do we have it worked out which kind of responses it will automatically respond to outside of the district?
Yeah, so that's well, there's the standard mutual aid package that involves rescue responses, and then that may or may not be enhanced as we go forward. As you know, Puget Sound has the other half of the rescue team for the zone. So both departments are gonna have to work closely together, but they've been doing that for years, and this only enhances that overall delivery. With regard to mutual aid outside the zone is probably the bigger issue than inside the zone. That typically works itself out pretty easily. But yeah, there's gonna have to be eyes laid on all of the response packages now and see if there's changes that need to be made. They will. Full confidence in the people that are gonna do that.
Chief, when the team went back to check on the status of the bill, were there any significant issues or problems, defects?
Now, there were a couple of items that we caught. For example, some of the lighting, this has a rear stairwell that you walk up into it. And imagine a ladder truck without the ladder. It's that big and it has steps in the back. So just as an example, some of just the perimeter lighting up in that area where you walk needs to be changed a little bit. But there's nothing of significance. After the inspection, it generated $10,000 in additional change orders that we requested. The bulk of the punch list items, the factory is doing on their dime, so to speak. So when you're looking at a $1 million+ apparatus, I don't see anything that concerns me whatsoever. It's pretty normal, frankly.
Great. Thank you.
And the engine, the injured engine is down or?
We also, when we were back, we took a good look at that. They've made significant progress on that. Understanding how the business model works at the factory with what they have is a fairly limited overall workforce that priority shifts towards the end of the month to new vehicles going out the door, being delivered, Early month to mid-month is where they do the repairs on the other ones like ours. But the bulk of the repair has been done. They were actually kind of beginning to, at least it appeared to me, to begin reassembly. There's a couple of small items we caught on that as well. But again, I don't think we're too far off before we see that show up. That one's going to come out on a low boy trailer as a part of the overall insurance settlement. The new one will be driven out, but yeah, I think we're close on both.
You're putting skid wheels on the back end of that thing, 'cause I'm sure it hangs over the rear wheels a lot.
Yeah, it's got a pretty good tail swing, but
Yeah.
the majority of the folks that are going to ultimately go on to drive that are the crews that are operating the ladders now, or very much in tune with that particular size vehicle. It's nearly as big as a ladder truck, and I believe it's taller than the current ladder trucks that we have. But a very seasoned group of people over there that operate those rigs. So I have every confidence that that rig will go on for many, many miles without any incidents.
Taller than the ladder reach, there's some trees hanging over like Dash Point Road and several other places. Are they measured, or we wait to knock something off of them before or could we ask the city to?
Yeah, we could certainly ask the city, and if you have any particular intersections or addresses that you could reference, we could make that happen. We do it the other way too. We remove them as we go, but that's not the preferred method by any means.
I'll get my forest surveying equipment out
Perfect.
and scope them.
Sounds good.
It's not a priority for them. I reported a couple of different neighborhoods that have issues, and the response was, well, we'll get to them when we can. But with the shortage of staffing over there, that Public Works, it's not something maybe they need to understand a little bit as to why it's important to us, because the damage is caused to a ladder truck going through and snagging a larger branch than your thumb could be significant and cost us a lot of money and slow response.
What's the height? Do we know what the height of both the ladder and the heavy rescue are?
Yeah, the bedded height of the ladder, I think it's probably around 12.5 feet, maybe. The rescue will be right there too, very close. Probably a foot shorter, but it's awfully close.
Just so
Kevin
you,
had something.
yeah, just so you guys know, this is an interesting topic, is I'm actually working on this in the marshal's office right now. As much as we have issues with main roads that we know, we have huge issues in the east side of our district. It's actually on the light duty project. We're gonna have someone go around. We haven't done this in many years, but we're gonna go around, particularly in these dirt roads and areas on the east side of our district, and we're gonna note the neighborhoods that don't meet our minimum requirements for width and for height. At the top of my head, I believe it's 12 feet wide and 16 feet tall, I believe is what it is. So we're gonna start identifying those neighborhoods, and at that point, we will send letters to the residential areas, to all the homes in that, saying that, it's our responsibility to make sure that we have access for our fire apparatus. And then, if we don't, then we don't want to get in the business of reporting to insurance companies that we have limited access to a neighborhood or to a structure. So that's actually something that's actually on our to-do list already for the fire marshal's office.
Chief Crossan, does that go so far as to identify neighborhood streets where people park on both sides? And it might be warranted to ask the city, respective city or county, to prohibit parking on one side to be able to get an apparatus through?
So that's even a bigger topic. I'll tell you, we're approving plans right now, particularly in the county. It's a real big issue. These 20-foot wide roads that are minimums. What they have to enforce in those, they can only park on one side. They can't park on both. The reality is, everybody who knows these neighborhoods know that doesn't happen. We have issues with it. The school district has issues with it. The garbage trucks have issues with it. But if the minimum amount of road that they can build is 20 feet wide, they can only have parking on one side. I will tell you, our marshal's office, particularly in the city of Feather Way, we have a plan currently for an apartment complex. They want to do that. And we are pitting, well, if you do that, then you have to do this, this, and this, and so forth. But we are trying to address that issue as much as we can. But the code does allow them to do those 20-foot roads. They just cannot have parking on both
That's the
sides.
fire, you're talking about the fire code?
Fire code / building code, it's addressed a little bit in both.
So the question is enforcement of that
Yes.
code requirement.
Yes, and it's as Mark's nodding, he knows, there's several neighborhoods on the county side of our jurisdiction where this is already, they're there and it's already a growing issue. The same the way we saw our first plan with it being proposed. And our plan review immediately put up red flags of, if you're gonna do this, then like, it has to be sprinkler, it has to be this, we just, it's kind of that give and take when we go through plan review. The code does say they can't do it, but it doesn't mean that we can't say that, okay, you can do it as long as we have this and this.
One last question on this, since we're into it already. Is signage required to be able to enforce?
Yes. And that gets into, and for us, so, and I will tell you, our new civilian inspectors are going around, they're dealing with this right now, with commercial properties. For PD to enforce and write tickets, it has to meet the intent of the law that each city sets. Better Ways is different than Des Moines, it's different than counties. They're all fairly similar, but they're not quite the same. So it gets into, not only does the curb have to be marked and painted, it has to be stenciled every so many feet, fire lane and so forth. And for the officer to write a ticket that's enforceable, all those benchmarks have to be met. Which is why our inspectors that's on their radar things that they look at. Is it marked properly? It's not faded. It's stenciled right. We see a lot where they stencil it on the curb itself, saying fire lane. That doesn't meet the intent. It's got to be on the blacktop. Has to be 12 or 18 inches, I forget what it is, but it has to meet all this criteria for police to enforce it.
Thank you.
The other thing is the signs that, where you can look out your windshield and see the sign says fire lane, no parking, or no parking fire lane. Those signs don't meet the code that the cops will enforce. They gotta be a regular street sign height.
Right.
And stuff. Well, the thing is, if people don't see the one right out the front of their hood, they're not gonna see the one that's another 8 feet up, so.
But like I said, the big thing I wanted to bring up about this new rig, because it affects our new rigs now. You get over there in that area and you get scratched on the side of rigs because they're just going to calls and try and do what they're trying to do. And we have certain streets where trees are just overgrown and they can't get down that street without scratching the rig up. And to be honest, it's something that Fire Marshal Nichols and I have been talking about. This should be probably something every other year. It's one of our light duty assignments now, is we're gonna send people out and do this. And I know this because many, many years ago, probably 25 years ago, or even longer, when I had injured myself, it was one of my light duty jobs. So I remember doing this and what I had to do. And I know no one knows the last time we've done it. It's been multiple years since we've done it.
Another comment, the other thing that is really a pain is that the developers in their homeowner association covenants mandate that you can't park cars on your apron in front of your garage. So if you have a party, where do they park? They can't park in the neighbor's driveway. They can't park in your driveway. So where do they park? On the street, on the side of the street that they're not supposed to park on, because nobody comes by and enforces it. So it's on us, I believe. I would hope that our officers, when they're doing their incident reports, are marking the box delayed in response, that it's the parking or access issues, so that it's documented on there. So when somebody comes after us for not having a timely response, it's documented and the insurance company can pay the loss that's incurred because we were delayed in getting to the scene.
Mark, you're just gonna have smaller parties, so that doesn't.
On the carpool.
Any more questions of staff? If I may, I'd like to close this section out with just a brief statement in that many of us, well, all of us in this room have been on a journey over the last couple of years or longer with COVID. And I took that pretty seriously and tried many times, got the board to change positions and allow the return of unvaccinated people the opportunity to at least return. We had 2 of them come back. And one of them has notified HR and myself that he intends to resign and go back to where he lives, which is in Texas. That's Tyrell Rose. That bothers me a great deal. I respect his decision, but I feel as though, as the chief at the time, I could have done more for him. And I want to put that on the record. This is something that's very near and dear to me personally, and I wish him well wherever he goes. And I would like to thank the board again for reconsidering the position that you ultimately did and allowed him an opportunity to come back. So, thank you.
How long did he work before he made his decision to resign?
Help me out here.
3 months, 3 months.
Yeah, I think about 3-ish months. That's it.
Okay. July budget.
Before I get into the July budget report, I just want to remind everybody that we do have the lid lift Proposition 1 on the ballot for next week. We have fielded a number of calls from the community on the measure. We've answered their questions, and the majority of those calls have ended positively, so we feel good that people understand through the publication that the district put out what the lid lift means for them and what it will cost. So now we keep our fingers crossed for next week's election. So
If you talk to anybody about that, remind them that when they mark their ballot, the lid lift is on the back of the page. So, I wasn't happy to see that, but there's nothing we can do about it, but you gotta turn your ballot over, and see how hard it is.
July, we're now halfway past the year. At this point in time, our target percentage would be 58 3300%. When we include the medical claims that were not included in the monthly report that we talked about last month, we are sitting under budget by 1 81/100%. So for the year, we're doing really well. We will expect that number to probably reduce over time, but right now we feel very confident about our budget position. And with the particulars, we have our finance analyst, Matt Reinhardt, here to read the numbers.
Mid-month utilities, $103,729.55. Accounts payable, $1,576,558.88. Payroll direct deposit, $1,354,653.75. Payroll taxes, $286,549.57. Medical claims processed as of July 18th, $210,704.32 with a total expense of $3,532,196.07.
All right, if you have a motion and a second to approve the vouchers.
I move we approve the July vouchers.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, it's been a motion made and seconded to approve the vouchers. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Any other comments before we adjourn? We are adjourned. Thank you.